Hello, welcome back to my channel, Biblical Validity, where we look at how science, history, and logic strongly reinforce the Bible, the validity, the reliability of the Bible. And so today's topic is going to be a really interesting one. I hope you enjoy it. And I thought it was so fun. I just thought I would go outside today and sit in the woods and enjoy it. But actually, I'm not in the woods. I'm in this cabin right here in the background. I built that a few years ago, and I'm inside. I just thought this picture would look more interesting than the wall of my cabin. So anyway, well, here we go. Big evidence for dinosaurs in human history. You got to be kidding, right? You know, we are told by science that dinosaurs died out long time ago, way before us, and and almost everybody on Earth, I think, believes that. Okay, well, but the Bible is right again. Okay, so I know it's a little bit provocative, but hear me out. Hear me out. Some really neat stuff here, and the evidence, the scientific evidence, is actually only fairly recent, past 20, 21, 22 years, we'll say. And so it's going to be, I think, pretty compelling to look at all that. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what does modern scientific naturalism say? What's the modern science education establishment? What do they have to say about dinosaurs? Okay, dinosaurs evolved around 240 million years ago. Birds evolved from avian dinosaurs. So avian dinosaurs were dinosaurs that the forerunners through evolution of birds, according to their science. Larger dinosaurs were non-avian. I think I've got that right. But anyway, dinosaurs were warm-blooded with elevated metabolisms. Not sure about the elevated metabolisms. I don't have a basis on which to argue one way or the other on that one. Um, Actually, in my lifetime, they start off as when I was a kid, dinosaurs were reptiles, cold-blooded reptiles, and then I think in the 1970s they started realizing now more likely they were warm-blooded, and birds are warm-blooded too. So I sometimes I hate to be too critical of this kind of science because they're what they collect, their reasoning. There are a lot of smart people on all this, and I think the mistake they're making is just ignoring some of the evidence. Okay, and soon I hope I will do a video on what I think where I think mainstream science naturalism the mistakes they are making, logical mistakes they are making, and why they are messing things up. Okay, well anyway, let's get on with it here. So. Many species of dinosaurs, evidently all the large non-avian types, this is still the scientific narrative, perished in a huge extinction level event caused by the collision of an enormous bolide. That's a bolide is like a big meteor in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico around 66 million years ago. So I don't recall when this was discovered. Maybe it was within my lifetime, I know. That big crater was found down there in the Yucatan, and scientists said, "Oh, I bet that's the smoking gun. Why dinosaurs disappeared 66 million years ago? Must have been this." Okay, now I don't recall when they thought dinosaurs disappeared. Were they at 66 million, or did they decide this later based upon dating this big crater, which I'm not sure how reliable that could be either. All right, so. Um, Now, if you're Christian and you do accept the version of the Bible, none of this is true. None of this is true. And but anyway, this is their best shot at explaining things. Okay, so the scientific narrative has been evolving for around 200 years regarding the rise and fall of dinosaurs, and most people accept it as fact. Matter of fact, the dinosaurs were fairly unknown until the early 1800s. I don't recall if some bones were uncovered that they couldn't explain before that, but it was really in the early 1800s that people started taking a real interest in these, and so and then then the science caught up with it and tried to explain it all. And I say, not so fast, not so fast here. Okay. Um, let me, before I read this slide, I've been there twice. There's a museum in Pittsburgh, near Carnegie Mellon University. It's a fantastic museum. It has tons of dinosaur stuff. And I think it may be the oldest dinosaur museum in the world. If not, it's certainly in the United States. And it's a wonderful place. But you go through there and you see, well, these dinosaurs lived, 150 million years ago, and or these lived another time ago, and they evolved into that. You see all this standard narrative in there, and I'm thinking, I kind of like to crack open some of those bones and see what's inside. And in 2004, that actually happened, and it was a mainstream scientist, a very competent one too, a paleontologist, Dr. Mary Schweitzer. I think she's very, very well regarded in her field. And my understanding of the story is that they were uncovering a big Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil, and they couldn't get it out of the rock. They literally just had to break the bone. And the femur is the kind of like the big leg bone, as I understand it. Anyway, so she 2004, so they led a team. They had to break open, unfortunately, a Tyrannosaurus Rex fossil. They discovered soft tissue in it. Whoa. The soft tissue was comprised of red blood cells, blood vessels, and collagen. And in terms of surprising, this kind of might rate up to there with finding an iPhone buried underneath the Great Pyramid of Giza. Okay, it's just like, wow, no one saw that one coming. And so, whew, I'm sure the gears started turning. Well, how can this be? You see, because the standard estimate for soft bone tissue surviving is around 10,000 years. It's just not supposed to survive that long. And so you compare it with the theorized extinction event of dinosaurs, divide the presumed extinction of 66 million years ago by 10,000 years, and you get 6,600 times as old. And so these soft tissues, could they have survived 6,600 times as long as we believe is possible? And I would say the answer is an emphatic no. But they are working on their theories. They do have theories, and I think I mentioned it here somewhere. The one theory has really, well, maybe there's enough iron there to preserve the blood cells and so forth. Anyway, it has to be a big mystery in that community of paleontologists studying these things. And so I honestly, I don't even know if a lot of them pay that much attention to them. Maybe they just say, well, I don't know what to say. Dinosaurs are still at least 66 million years old or older. Okay. And I mentioned dinosaurs are believed to have started 240 million years ago. So, okay. Well, anyway, so this discovery is not a singular anomaly. People have been breaking dinosaur bones and even other fossils apart to see what's inside ever since. At least 58 scientific articles have been published with such discoveries. And this is on dinosaur bones, and 122 articles total if you include non-dinosaur fossils. So this is not just dinosaurs, it's other supposedly, presumably ancient fossils. And I want to give credit here. This is creation.com has an article on this that was written, I believe, about a month ago. And so, okay. The So you can check it out. I did kind of a Google search to see how many articles had been published because I hear different numbers. I thought it was up to 300, but apparently this place, which I would um, trust them pretty well, said, oh, 58 articles and or 122 articles, depending on how you look at it. Okay, so let's see. Secular scientists, these are the people who do not really believe in the account of Genesis. And it doesn't mean they're not Christians. There are certainly, I think, many scientists. My best estimate I've seen is maybe half the scientists do believe in some kind of God. Many of them are surely Christians. One of my very best friends is a Christian. He's also a scientist, a physicist, and so but secular scientists are working on a hypothesis to explain this result in light of their belief in an ancient Earth. So even Christians sometimes believe in an ancient Earth. Now, when they do so, they're rejecting the account of Genesis, and there's all kinds of baggage I think associated with that because Jesus vouched for the old validity of the Bible of the Old Testament um, a number of times, and so it's sort of a test of faith there, I think. Okay, well, anyway, um, some of this has been, I said soon of this, it should be some of this has been related to the presence of iron. Okay, and I haven't really read up on the theories that might explain why they think soft tissues, even blood, could last millions and millions of years. Um, you got to remember the other thing issue is that if the old Earth is as old as they say it is, it's undergone millions of years of erosion, millions of years of tectonic plate activity, earthquakes, weather events. Um, things just don't normally last that long. And so how could these bones have really contained soft tissue for 66 million years? It just kind of beggars belief in that. Okay, so here's another one. Carbon 14 has been detected in dinosaur and other ancient fossils at least 14 times. Now, there's not a lot of literature on this that I can find. And there's a reason for it, because the mainstream scientists do not believe in an ancient Earth. So why would they test a fossil for carbon-14? So let me explain a little bit about carbon-14. We breathe in carbon-14. I believe it's formed in the upper atmosphere primarily due to collisions of radiation from space with carbon dioxides, and that can add, does it add protons maybe to a nucleus? It creates a form of carbon that's not stable, and it's actually a little bit radioactive. And so being unstable, the atoms will periodically fly apart. And in any amount of carbon-14, about half of it will split in a period of 5,730 years. That's called the half-life. All right, so uh, the calculations with this kind of decay rate, this is called, actually rather easy. I used to teach this all the time in college algebra. Even before you get to calculus, you can learn about this and how to calculate it. Anyway, the testing on carbon-14 in these fossils is apparently only done by creation scientists, and secular scientists do not believe dinosaurs could have existed in the era of humans. All right, so can't say I blame them. They didn't believe it, so why would they waste their time with carbon-14? It's probably expensive, uh, that form of testing. Okay, now, so here I mentioned that carbon-14 is a radioactive form of carbon that all life forms naturally take in. Yes, plants and animals, because we breathe, we take in carbon-14. And we have a, kind of a particular amount in our body that's pretty uniform from person to person, we'll say. And so even we have it. Anyway, carbon-14 cannot be detected after around 60,000 years. Okay, because every 5,730 years, half of it turns into something else, and half of that, half of that, half of that, and pretty soon there's not enough there that you can measure. And so you cannot detect carbon-14 in fossils going back millions of years. There's simply none there. The whole Earth could be made of carbon-14, and it would all be gone in certainly far less than 66 million years. So, all right. So, I like to throw this in. Carbon-14 has also been found in oil and coal, which mainstream science presumes was formed millions of years ago during slow processes. Well, it's possible to form coal in about a week, okay, um, under extreme processes. And so anyway, it doesn't take millions of years to form coal or oil. And I'm not a real expert in that, but I think that can be readily shown. And here's one that kind of blows me away. Even diamonds contain carbon-14. Okay, diamonds are believed to be about 1 billion years old, formed under humongous pressures inside of Earth. And diamonds are carbon. They're ordinary carbon-12, the regular carbon, but they're a billion years old, and for some reason they're finding carbon-14 inside of diamonds. It has been found. So they can't be a billion years old. Okay. All right. Sometimes I tell this to people, I think their eyes just kind of glaze over. I don't know what to do with this. Well, no, I guess not. Okay. If you don't want to believe it, there's nothing I can say that will convince you. Okay. All right. So, what other evidence is there for dinosaurs coexisting with humans? Okay. I'm getting a little bit away from the science here, but let's do a little bit of history referencing. Um, Dragons have appeared in literature up to the Middle Ages. Could they have been inspired by stories or accounts of dinosaurs? Actually, a lot of accounts and stories about dragons, and I can't say that all of them involve these flying animals that spew fire. Okay, now that may have been a concoction in some literature, uh, but a lot of these so-called dragons, maybe if it comes from real stories, maybe they were dinosaurs. Okay, I can't prove that, but where else do they come up with these creatures? What else do they come up with these creatures? You see, the word dinosaur, which means terrible lizard, was not coined until around 1831. And so we didn't call anything dinosaurs in the old days when they wrote about these dragons. Okay, they didn't have the dinosaur word to use, so they called them something else. Okay. Now there are many examples of paintings and carvings of dinosaur-like creatures going back several thousand years. Some of these are anatomically accurate depictions of dinosaur species we are familiar with, such as Stegosaurus. And I don't recall those. I've one time I heard there are about 11,000 examples of this. I haven't been able to readily find that number or where they sourced it from. I did a little bit of search, and yeah, a lot of paintings, cave paintings, artwork, even artwork going back to the Middle Ages, carvings, sculptures of creatures which look like dinosaurs, and some of them are really good, accurate versions of pictures of dinosaurs, like that Stegosaurus I mentioned. And so, yeah, is that does that evidence count? Well, why would people be making up these visual images if no one had ever seen a dinosaur? The bones of dinosaurs were never dug out of the ground until, for the most part, the 1800s. And so there were no bones to go off of. No one would have reconstructed skeletons and come up with these fantastical stories and pictures. Um, no one would have done that. No one knew anything about these big creatures that we call dinosaurs until the 1800s. And so, why were there so many paintings and carvings and sculptures, dinosaur-like creatures? How do you explain that? Okay. I see. I think science tends to live in a bubble. If a lot of scientists do not stray outside their own area of expertise because they got their hands full doing their own work, and that's their interest. In a way, I can't blame them. And but you know, there it is. There's some. I would call that evidence. Okay. This is a fairly recent development where the the paleontologist world has decided, well, hey, these dinosaurs were basically forerunners of our birds, or maybe they just were birds. Are birds actually evolved dinosaurs? Well, it's an arguable point. Okay, it only works if you allow the theory of evolution to link presumably some ancient dinosaurs to modern birds. Okay, so yeah, this works if you believe in evolution. And evolution requires millions and millions of years. And so it's a good theory. And it can be argued from that standpoint. And they will. Okay. And um, if but if God did create everything 6,000 years ago, according to the Bible, and this is what this channel is about, looking at those kinds of evidence, um, then birds would not have evolved from dinosaurs. Okay, right? No time for it. And besides, evolution, we'll talk about that another day. There's a lot of stuff we can look at there that pretty much debunks Darwinian type of evolution. Okay. There are several photos. This to me is a really fun part. There are several pictures or photos which appear to have been taken in the 1800s, showing groups of cowboys posing with pterodactyls they presumably killed. Now, the pterodactyls, those are the big flying dinosaurs, and I'm not sure they're considered dinosaurs technically, but most of us kind of think of them as dinosaur era animals. All right, well, these pictures are largely jeered as fakes since no one really believes that pterodactyls could have possibly been alive in 1890. And so so they think, well, they got to be fakes. And you know what? I'm not good enough to argue that these are authentic photos. I just don't have that expertise. Um, but I do believe probably some or most of them were around well before Photoshop, well before desktop computers. And so why would these people go to such trouble to create a picture of this big monster pterodactyls that they presumably shot down? Why would they fake this stuff? And do they make money off this? See, I've never found any evidence of that, because why would they go to this trouble? How are they making money off it? So I can't prove these are real pterodactyls, but you can do a search and find them. And I've got one in my slides. So here's a graphic. So I had to do a screenshot with my iPhone because I didn't take the time to learn how I could otherwise import it quickly. And anyway, here we go. So look at that. Now, these are obviously men in period clothing, probably carrying guns of that era, outside an old barn, holding up this animal, which to me looks like a pterodactyl, and I would have to assume it's a dead one. And so it's a big one, big guy, and so I don't think it was Photoshop because I think this has probably been around for many years, long before we had that kind of technology to easily fake photographs. So they would have had to somehow create one of these things and hold it up and pretend that they shot it down. All right, and I can't. There's no way I'm going to convince someone who believes it's a fake that is not a fake. All right, um, and I'll admit the possibility that it could have been faked. Okay, I'll say that maybe it could have been faked. I do not have the proof. All right, so fair enough. Okay, so oops, a newspaper in Tombstone, Arizona, published an account of one of these beasts being shot down in April 1890. No other evidence besides the story was given. So apparently these things, if they were real, lived out in Arizona, and they caused a stir, I think, in 1890 when the newspaper published it. As far as I know, no one's ever published such an article since then. So this would have been presumably the last pterodactyl kill, if it's real. If it's not real, it's made for a fantastic story. Sold newspapers. So I can't really prove one way or the other. Okay. So you don't want to believe it, that's fine. We don't have great evidence, um, physical evidence that we can produce that pterodactyls lived as late as 1890. So we'll just go with that. How's that? So now, what does the Bible have to say about dinosaurs? Well, the Bible really doesn't say much. The Bible is not a science book. It's you know, to me, it's the history of the world from start to finish. Okay, we're not to the finish line yet, and but the it's possible. These are theories. Okay, it's possible that very young dinosaurs, like talking baby young dinosaurs, could have easily fit in Noah's Ark. They've done calculations. You could have put all the animals in Noah's Ark, and we'll do a whole series on Noah's Ark and the flood. Evidence for Noah's flood, which is enormous. It's not even close. I mean, the flood happened. So we'll do a video series on that someday when I can get to it. And all right, but they could have been fit in Noah's Ark. Okay, if God created everything around 6,000 years ago, then humans would have coexisted with the dinosaurs that we find in fossils. And just for reference, the Noah's flood was believed to be, from a Christian standpoint, Noah's flood was believed to have taken place around 4,500 years ago. So that's the timeline as we probably about the best we can understand it. Okay, so let's see. Now, the book of Job, I think it's pronounced Job, not Job. Book of Job is considered the oldest written book in the Bible, perhaps going back 4,000 years ago or 2000 BC. Not too long after the human race was dispersed in the Tower of Babel incident mentioned in Genesis. Okay, so uh, for the fourth generation after Noah, the um, the people in the world were gathered in Babel, and they ended up building a big tower, and they were going to stay there, and God had commanded them to move throughout the earth, and they wouldn't, so he decided just, okay, I'll mess with you. We'll mix up all your languages so you can't even talk to each other. Now get out there. And so anyway, it's a great story, and I think there's some evidence for this. Also, we'll look at the evidence for the Tower of Babel, not just a structure that could have been the tower, but evidence that this whole thing could have happened the way the Bible said it did. Anyway, back to the book of Job. In in Job, God describes two huge creatures which can match descriptions of dinosaurs. One of them was called Leviathan, and it may have been a sea creature. I don't know. I I should have reviewed it. I forgot. I don't think there's a name for the other one, but it described this. The descriptions. Um, so you read these descriptions that like might have been describing a dinosaur. A dinosaurs there. So pretty interesting. But that's all, to my knowledge, that's all the Bible has to say about that. So uh, there you have it. Other than, you know, God created the earth about 6,000 years ago. Okay. So now, now I have a few theories of my own, and I don't have any proof for them. Um, Dinosaurs spread throughout the world from the Ark, with the greatest collection in America. I think we find the most fossils in America. I've been to an area in Nebraska. There's actually one house that was built entirely of dinosaur bones. It's the only one ever built. It's still out there. No one lives in it anymore. And if you look in the window, there's big dinosaur bones inside. Anyway, that area in Nebraska has reputed to have more dinosaur fossils than anywhere else in the world. So I assume that that's where they were. But yeah, dinosaurs have been found in Europe and Asia. I'm not sure about Africa or South America. But anyway, my theory is that, well, these would have been a great source for meat. So the population is getting scattered, going to new territories, and God gave them a ready source for meat. And now the large dinosaurs, I think, would have been easy to hunt. All right, so most likely they would live near water in order to stay cool. So you think about very big mammals. Okay, if the dinosaurs were mammals or warm-blooded. Um, one thing, they don't have much fur. Look at an elephant; he's got like a hair here and a hair there. Very little fur. Elephants like to stay cool. They love water. They'll splash around in water because and the big ears are there to help. They're like radiators to help keep them cool. And so the bigger the animal, the harder it is to get rid of internal heat. Your body creates, or a body creates, uh, heat in order to maintain a constant temperature. And if you're warm-blooded, like we are, and like dinosaurs are, and elephants and other big mammals, um, then heat for the very largest animals is hard to get rid of. So you have to be near water. You got to stay cool. One exception in our world is the polar bears. Polar bears, of course, can swim in freezing water and be totally happy. And they have a very thick, blubbery hide. They have very almost unique, maybe unique fur. It's actually, I just saw this today, their fur is hollow. The polar bears are actually, the skin is black, yeah, all black. But they appear white because of the way light is scattered inside their fur makes them appear white, which is great. They kind of camouflage in with the snow, and so probably makes it a little bit easier for them to sneak up on prey. Um, anyway, but so there's the exception. Polar bears can take the cold because they are really dressed for the weather. Okay, so but big dinosaurs, no, they would have to stay cool somehow. Um, and like elephants, dinosaurs were just too big to quickly climb hills. You ever seen a dinosaur climb you ever seen an elephant climb a tree? No. And I bet they would have a tough time climbing a hill of any size. And so I would expect big dinosaurs would probably, and like big elephants would probably stick around, mostly stick around very flat land. The largest dinosaurs would have been slow movers, I think. Now, if I part I don't understand, did they have a faster metabolism that would permit them to move faster? Possibly, possibly, and I don't, I'm not really expert in that. I would think with a faster metabolism, you don't live as long. All right, because small mammals, actually the very smallest mammals, have the opposite problem. They have a high running metabolism in order to keep warm. That keeps them warm, and but they have to eat a lot. You know, they have to keep that engine running. And the smallest mammal is a shrew, you know, about a third the size of a mouse. And those things eat 3 times their own body weight each day just to stay alive. And so the you know, this is you know, that fearsome looking Tyrannosaurus Rex, you know, the ones in the movies, man. They're you know, zooming through the forest, you know, coming after people. Might have been easy to outrun. Humans might have been able to outrun a T-Rex. I don't know. Might have been easy because I don't think they could have moved very fast. You know, their bones are big, very big compared to the rest of their body, so they're weighted down by bones. Um, they can't breathe as well. You know, your breathing is related to your size, and the bigger the size, the less oxygen you can take in because of the way the physics works on that. And the so you can't process energy so fast. Think about the big lions out in Africa. They, you know, they catch prey, they eat. They might sleep for 23 hours. They have to sleep at all. It's too much energy for them. Most big mammals are not carnivorous. Most of them are vegetarians, and they eat much lower energy stuff because they don't. You eat too much energy, they're going to overheat, and now they got to get rid of all that. And oh, well, I could talk for a long time. I used to talk about this in my classes sometimes. Anyway, so I think it's possible Tyrannosaurus Rex was more of a scavenger than a predator. So if it's part of his diet was eating other big dead dinosaurs, they would need a very big jaw and big teeth to rip that flesh off of there. So again, these are my theories. I don't know if anybody out there holds these theories or if they can easily be debunked, but to me it made sense. Okay, so my theories are based on a little knowledge of mathematical biology. I'm not a biologist, I'm a mathematician. I don't yet have a science-related theory as to why the small dinosaurs all went extinct. Well, here's my theory, and I have absolutely no proof for it. Perhaps God only loaded babies of the big ones on board the ark in order to provide a later food source. Maybe he didn't put the small dinosaurs on the ark and just let them go extinct in the flood. Okay, that would be my theory, and for whatever it's worth. All right, so I guess it's time to wrap up. I was kind of hoping a dinosaur would just come roaring through the forest here, but that's just a photograph. It's not a video behind me. So, and no, I have not seen any dinosaurs back in my woods. That'd be pretty cool. All right. All right. So the science challenging mainstream scientific / evolution theories of the young Earth account in Genesis in regards to dinosaurs is actually pretty recent. I mean, about 20 years. Okay. We didn't really have an answer for them other than we believe in Genesis. So you had to go totally on faith. The nice thing about our world is that this science and historical scholarship is revealing more about how the Bible is really valid. You know, there's evidence for it, and that's the point of my channel here. So I expect more evidence to appear in the future and more pushback from the mainstream. Okay, so as I say in YouTube land, be sure to like and subscribe if you like these videos. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you do that. Share it if you can. Feel free to leave a comment. And so all that helps these videos get more exposure by the algorithms that Google uses in YouTube. So okay, well, that's what I had to say, and I guess it's time to sign off and roll credits.